Lawin Media Network.
Bringing to you the most relevant content across all platforms.
Business, legal, politics, health, lifestyle, and entertainment.
Your source for all the news and updates in the greater Houston community from Texas and all over the world.
Get informed and empowered with Lawin Media Network.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pink Table Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Carly D., a doctorally prepared registered nurse, educator, mentor, professional development specialist, and victims advocate and survivor. You are watching us tonight on Lawin Media Network Live, either through our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. And if you don't happen to catch us live, you can catch us on over 18 different podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and Google. Tonight, we have a very special guest and a dear friend of mine, Olivera Jankowska. So Olivera, she is an immigrant and a global citizen. She is a published economist and a public servant with over 14 years of leadership experience. She is also an author of children's books, and she speaks multiple languages and leads several international, national, and local boards. She has been honored for her diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts within organizations as well in our local community here. She is also the recipient of the 2023 National Civic Lead All-American Leader Award and a recipient of the 2017 U.S. President Volunteer Service Award. I am so delighted and honored to be able to have Olivera here on the show tonight. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome Olivera Jankowska to Pink Table Talk.
Wow, thank you.
Hi, Olivera.
Hi, the pleasure is absolutely mine, and it's an honor to have this conversation with you tonight.
Thank you. Happy. When I started Pink Table Talk, I was thinking of great inspiring women, and I immediately thought of you. And so I'm just so happy that I finally get the chance to have you here to be able to share your wonderful journey and story with my audience.
My pleasure.
Thank you. So for our audience members at home, and we have international audiences, tell us about your story. Tell my audience about who is Olivera?
Sure. Well, if I actually share the entire story, I think we will need an entire season. So I'm going to try to shorten it. But I'm blessed to actually have a story, and I think a lot of people will find ups and downs of stories that people share inspiring, rather. So grew up in a very small town in southeastern Europe, from Macedonia originally. I grew up in absolute poverty. My parents both do not have college degrees. They raised us primarily with farmland production. So I've really not had any exposure as I was growing up to anything but a small town community. And so one thing that I'll point out over and over and over is that really education is what brought me to where I am today, and education is what really opened my eyes. Even though I grew up in such a small community with close to no resources, close to no opportunities, there's always the world of books, and there's always a chance for people to imagine what is out there in the world. And that's exactly what I did. I imagined, the world beyond my little town. And so slowly I got immersed with several international organizations who have pretty much figured out that young people like myself in my country will have no opportunity. So that's by no chance. There was the British Council, there was the Peace Corps, there was UNICEF, who were providing varieties of resources from basic needs to educational support, to trainings, to opportunities, language, you name it. And so, and that's what really, I guess, defines me as an individual. I'm very curious and I want to know it all. I don't know it all, but I always want to know it. Well,
Yes.
I quickly went into these opportunities and started getting engaged with their offerings, and I realized there is a world beyond my little community. So
Yes.
yeah, I mean it's really long, but I can maybe tell in chunks, or you want me to continue? I don't know how you want me.
Oh no, I love this story, and I share your same passion. I want to know it all, and I'm always trying to absorb more knowledge. I'm always reading things, whether it's articles or, just little postings and flyers and things. And, I'm just always trying to know as much. I want to know everything in the world. So that's a great passion to have. So, what was your driving force and what was your motivation to leave that small community that you grew up in?
Well, I mean, it's a cliche response, but poverty. I saw how the world around me was so torn. I knew that there was just going to be nothing and no one. That I will just end up being like every other girl in that small community, get married, have family, do little bitty bitty things, and just life goes on. But I knew deep inside that that's not me. And interestingly enough, I come from a family of public servants, even though they were never working. Both my parents have always volunteered and supported the community. They have big hearts. My grandparents were public servants as well. And so I think there's nothing for me to do if I don't try to leap out of this place, and I just want to help the world in any way I can. I think between those two, I was able to sort of open my eyes and go forward.
That's wonderful. A lot of our audience members, they are also living in poverty. We have a live broadcast in the Philippines, and a lot of them are there, and they share the same struggles, but they also have a great passion and are hoping and dreaming big. And so I just think, what you have done is just such a great inspiration to them. You know. And I love what you said. You said that you knew it wasn't for you. Can you talk more about that? What was the difference there?
And so, I mean, from very young age, I sort of I've always been a very imaginative, creative soul. I used to, do all sorts of theater at home and just made up stories and always just I've always been kind of weird for my community. Like I would put up a show in my driveway for passengers. I was doing
Wow.
I just had these imaginations when I was growing up that a lot of kids found me odd. But I thought that really was what helped me imagine what's beyond. And I think that's that creativity. And I always thought that, there's always something you can do with some itty bitty resources. And so I started digging a little bit. Essentially, I think I got very lucky being in the hands of international aid. And so I want to point out that, for all Americans listening here, and sometimes they say, why do we give money outside of the world? For people like me, the money that I've received might have been like, less than $1 in the value, but look at the amount of value I've contributed back to the American economy, right? And so there's many of me around the world that have received that very small amount of help. Like, just to point out one example, UNICEF brought in educational materials because we were so poor to the point that I didn't even have notebooks, no pencils, no pens, no nothing. And growing up in a socialist country, you have to have specific things to go in school. They provide you everything, like the school is free, the food is free, but like there was this disconnect between absolute poverty. Like, I actually did not have a pencil. Yes, I had food, I had school, but I had no pencils. And so UNICEF saw those opportunities and jumped in and helped people like myself.
Wow, that's such an amazing story. That's so beautiful, and I think it's an important message, especially in the current climate that we're in today. I think it's important for us to remember our fellow country, and to remember those people like you with a dream and a passion, who want a different life, and I think it is important for us to continue, giving to those organizations such as UNICEF. So I thank you for showing us the importance and where the money goes and what it can do. I think people always think, oh, well, where is this going to? It's going in someone's pocket, some greedy corporate pocket, but
not at all. I can tell you that every organizations I've interacted with, they're always staffed with people who are paid in smiles, and so I always they are sacrificing a lot to help people like myself.
Yes, that's so wonderful. And then I love the proof of the possibilities, and what dreams are really made of. I think we often think about stories like yours as if they're unattainable, but they are.
Yeah, I have to pinch myself even to this day. Now I've lived in the United States for the last 17 years. I find myself being in meetings and places, and then I would get a side-by-side image. I would see what I see wherever I am in a meeting, and then I would get a flashback from where I was.
Wow.
And just these two images are not a reality. Even though they are real, they just are not reality. If you are going to ask someone to see these two images and what's the relationship between the two, they'll say none. And so I think that's I've been blessed, truly blessed to move from that image to this image. So
wow, that's amazing. Such an amazing story. And I'm just so happy to be able that you're sharing it with us today. We're going to go to our first commercial break of the evening, but everybody stay tuned for more Pink Table Talk with Olivera Jankowska.
Calling all food lovers and aspiring culinary stars. Get ready to turn your kitchen dreams into reality with the Commissary Kitchen, hosted by none other than the adobo queen herself, Nancy Reyes-Luman. From perfecting classic dishes to navigating the commissary business landscape, Nancy's got you covered. Because in her kitchen, every dish tells a story, and every recipe is an opportunity to shine. Join us every Thursday 8 p.m. CST or Friday 10 a.m. PH time, and let's cook up something extraordinary together.
Welcome back to Pink Table Talk. Tonight we are speaking with Olivera Jankowska. She is sharing with us her amazing journey from Macedonia to in her driveway to being here in America. So I wanted us to continue with her amazing journey. So, Olivera, can you tell our audience a little bit more about your journey to America? When did that start and how did that happen?
Yeah, 47 hours at 13 minutes of flight. Just joking. I did stay awake for that entire journey, but so essentially, when I started working with the Peace Corps, the British Council, and UNICEF back in my home country, Peace Corps specifically, there was a volunteer in my town who helped me learn English, and who told me that I should apply for college, and I said, "College? Me? Have you seen how I look? My clothes? I don't even have money to pay." At that time, the most expensive item, the most expensive commodity was internet. Access to the internet was our monthly income from farmland for just 3 minutes of internet. They sold it per 3 minutes. And
Wow.
so the Peace Corps volunteer had an allotment of time to the internet. So we would actually, it was like the dial-up. So everything in my country is 10 years behind. So I'm talking about, this is early 2000s. Early 2000s in Macedonia, it would have been like what it was in the 1990s in US. So we are about 10 years behind on everything. He would dial up and we'll get 3 minutes and look up a few colleges. He would contact his friends here in the United States to send information and links so we could be quick. Sometimes we downloaded websites and put them on a CD drive, for those of you that remember that. So we can look up websites offline to see what do I need to do to apply for colleges. So, long story short is it's not impossible, but it was pretty close to impossible.
I'll say,
yeah. I did the tests, and turns out I had some real good scores and some perfect math scores. And I got admitted to a private college in Greece first. I graduated from the college over there as a valedictorian and applied to the United States. I got a scholarship for University of Arkansas. Graduated from that, and then each and every step I sort of thought, this is it. Graduate school and finished that. And so it's just the international student journey, which a lot of your audience probably will identify. Very harsh, grueling, frightening, house of cards, building life of nothing, moving away 6,000 miles. I was barely 19 when I took the flight out of Greece to Atlanta. I stayed awake 43 hours because I was afraid that somebody will steal the pity $300 that I had. Thinking back, that was probably a coffee for someone in that flight, but I thought that was like a ton of money. So I stayed awake because I thought somebody's going to steal it. And so I was worried. And but no, I mean, and then once most of international students, that's beautiful about this country is that there's a lot of community and there's a lot of support from people who are here. Immediately, I was assigned a American family who was my host family. I got immersed in it quickly. I think I started to see light, not light in the end of the tunnel, not yet, but I started to see light.
Totally different. That's awesome.
Mhm.
That is really beautiful, and what quite the journey, and oh my gosh, 43 hours. I can't even imagine. Oh, what a tremendous journey for you at such a young age, I can't even imagine what I would have been thinking at that age to take such a long journey to a new environment and to a new place. What was it like when you first landed here? I mean, did you know the language? Did you know where you were going? What did you expect? How was that?
I mean, so like I said, still limited internet. Still, I hadn't had a chance to really like look exactly where I'm going. Going to this place called University of Arkansas, and that's about it. But for most people, America is Times Square. For most people in the world, it's just Times Square. That's all we know. It's Times Square.
Yeah.
Like I literally picture the plane landing in Times Square. That's what I expect. And now for those that have been to Fayetteville, Arkansas, there's not even a single light in a distance of God knows how long. It's a farmland and there's no Times Square. And at first because I had been in Greece prior to this, so while I did leave my village, it would have been different. Like, for example, if I left my town and then I landed in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I would have been like, oh, well, that's pretty similar, rural area and that. But see, I've been for 2 years in Thessaloniki, Greece, a large city, and getting used to kind of the big city thing. And so I'm landing and I'm looking out of the window, and well, first sign of fear was the tiniest plane out of Atlanta, the 2 and 1 seater. And I was like,
Yes.
oh, okay. I was kind of waiting for the big plane, Square, okay. And so I landed there, and it was a huge disappointment at first because I was like, where's Times Square? Where is the lights? Where is America? What am I? And then literally within days, I'm not even talking about weeks, within days, I started walking around the university. Such a pretty place, such a welcoming place. The community is just lovely. To this day, I only have another home, which is University of Arkansas for me. And that's not an exaggeration. In fact, I do have plans to retire there. So I point being is that the expectations and the what I thought was waiting for me on the other end was not what it was. But I even got something better than that. I got Times Square visuals, but I got the size of Times Square love
Wow.
So I had very hard time leaving.
Oh, wow. That's
I love
awesome.
Houston. I love Houston.
Yeah, there has to be something quite serene about just a nice little, country town. And, did it feel kind of like home to you a little bit? Did it remind you of home?
Yeah, I mean, the people, the place, the university, everything was just out of a dream. And I felt, I felt like I belonged immediately. And
Yeah.
that made a big difference. I felt immediate place in that community. The university had done a fantastic job. Every single international student, I'm pretty sure they felt exactly like I did.
Wow, what an amazing journey. I know it must have been quite the culture shock for you. It's so funny you mentioned Times Square. I grew up in New York City. So, that was that was my reality. And when I'm thinking of Times Square, when I grew up, Times Square was all like, hot peep shows and all this, it was kind of like Vegas when I was growing up. Of course, now Disney, yeah, has taken over, but for me growing up, it was like the adult place, you know. And so whenever my family and I drove through, we were like, ooh, you know, so scandalous. But I heard from so many international people that that's their image of America. And I'm just like, why Times Square? But you know what? It is fabulous. And, you know, it's got all the big, beautiful, bright lights. That's where New Year's is. And so it is just a special place. And so that's just so funny. But I've heard that so many times. um, what does your family and friends back home in Macedonia think of you today? Do you still keep in touch with people from back home in Macedonia?
Very much so. So when I first, well, even when I was gearing to leave, it seemed like, I mean, I was always the odd kid. But now I was like, for sure, the odd kid. When I started announcing that I'm gonna go out of town to study college and all that, I mean, it's the whole idea of leaving and college, a foreign concept. I started announcing, and people, she's just, you know, she's crazy. But maybe this is one of her other plays or something. I don't know, imagination, whatever. But then it happened, and very shortly, people realized that actually there is a world beyond. And so you know, I've been told, I can't tell with, like, as I wasn't really present, but I've been told that since my departure, things have changed dramatically. And at one point, I was a hero of the town, and I did receive special honor. It means nothing to most of the people, but there's one award that is given for like the citizen of the town, and they spend a ton of work. I mean, it's like, you might as well call it the Nobel Prize of Kriva Polanka, Macedonia. But it's a truly special award, and I was given that award for significant contributions to my hometown, for the development. And so I go back frequently. I support my community, specifically folklore, because that is very dear and near to my heart. Folk tales, and that's where children's stories come. We can talk about that. But you know, I've always, every time I went back, I tried to inspire yet another person to take this journey, and I was honest of how hard it was, and I was honest of what to expect. But you know, ever since, there's so many people that have actually done exactly what I did. And one funny tradition is folk music used to not be part of celebrations back home. I had a celebration that I included a folk group and a folk performance.
Oh, wow.
And ever since my town, most of people who have major celebrations, weddings, they include a folk celebration as well, which is lovely to know that. So definitely support my community, very much in touch. My parents still live there. I still very much consider myself an immigrant. I am American, but I think I am first, you know, because I'm first generation, I'm also Macedonian as well, equally as I am American.
That's wonderful. What a wonderful story. And I'm glad that you're still maintaining your roots, and how wonderful of them to give you the award. That is so, just so lovely, you know, and I think it just shows the appreciation, you know, that they have for you and how you inspired them. So that was just such a lovely story. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
So we're going to go into our second commercial break of the evening, but you guys stay tuned for more Pink Table Talk with Olivera Jankowska. I hope I got it right this time. I'm trying.
Tune into Legal Treats with attorney Eileen Legoat Dizon
every Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time.
Get your weekly dose of legal knowledge, especially on family matters like divorce, child custody, child support, estate planning, probate and immigration.
Engage in discussions by posting your questions, comments, greetings or shoutouts.
See you every Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time. That would be Saturday at 9 a.m. Philippines. Don't miss out.
Welcome back to Pink Table Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Carly D. The show is produced by Lawin Media Network, and you can watch us live on YouTube every Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Central or 8 o'clock Eastern. You can also catch us on Twitch TV, Facebook Live, and over 18 different podcast platforms, including Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and Google. Tonight, we're talking with immigrant, global citizen, and public servant, Olivera Jankowska. So before our break, we talked about her roots in Macedonia and her leap of faith and journey to America. So Olivera Jankowska, tell us more about your educational journey. I know that you speak many languages. Did you learn that in school or just from your hometown?
Yeah, so some of it, Macedonia is a very small country, so we have borders with several countries who speak different languages. And so my town is actually right at the corner between Bulgaria and Serbia. So naturally, learn, those two languages. When I studied in Greece, I learned Greek. And to point out, even though it's just a neighboring country, the languages are different. There's not a single word that is the same. My language, Macedonian, Slavic, Greek is Greek. So I learned Greek. Throughout my entire education, I self-taught myself primarily French, with reading books, writing down words, and I think what your listeners will find the funniest is I learned Spanish from soap operas.
Wow.
I've always been a great listener, and so I'm able to, I'm able to listen and learn immediately, and that's just a gift. So I would just listen these operas in Spanish, which had no translation because we were stealing the channels. Don't tell that anyone. But I learned Spanish, and in fact, the funny thing is that I didn't even know I could speak Spanish until I actually came to the United States, and
wow.
a 2-year time frame in Greece, which I did not speak Spanish, and then I came to the United States, and in Arkansas there was a lot of Hispanic students, and me in Spanish. I kept saying, "I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're saying," but then I did know what I was saying, and people from amnesia and they'll wake up in the hospital or something from coma and they speak a different language. Well, I believe how I felt. It's a story I stopped telling because people thought it was bogus. It's the truth. It is 100% the truth. I learned Spanish from freaking soap operas because I watched them all day long as a teenager. There was nothing else to do in my little town. It was just soap operas with no translation. So I was like a baby being immersed in Spanish. So recently I kind of stopped saying that because it was, again, people are like, what? Nobody learns to speak such. I said I took intensive Spanish classes, and so I can get rid of that. Hindi, and I have been working on more languages. I wouldn't include them because I don't think I'm able to say more than just the basics and stuff. That's just languages have always been a natural inclination for me. I connect with people through stories, and hence
Yes.
folk tales, and specifically the oral retelling of generational stories. I love
Oh, I love that. That's wonderful.
hear what others. It doesn't have to be generation. It could be, here's Carly's story, and I would listen to you, and then I would imagine your life as you were saying it, and
Wow.
write a story based on it. So I've done plenty of that. I used to write a
Wow.
lot and write poetry and write dramas um, and sometimes musicals. I would write
Oh, wow.
musicals and test them out. I would be the singer, the dancer, the choreographer, the
Wow.
writer, producer.
Wow. Multi-talented. Anything in the works?
Is stubborn enough to try something. Like I was like, no, I want to figure out what this is about. So yeah.
Anything in the works coming down the pipeline? We see any shows from you?
Shows, but I do have completed additional 4 books that one of the things that I do is I do test drive my books. So I do read them out loud to children and observe their reactions and engagements, interactions. So to be honest, I don't write the books to make money. I just
Yeah.
want to evoke a feeling. I want to deliver a story, and so it's important to me how the children receive these stories. And so I would spend a ton of time. The first book took me almost 2 years to complete.
Wow.
And I have 4 completed, but I do very intensive rounds of readings. And since I've been very busy and being sort of recent-ish a single mom, for the last 3-4 years, I've not been able to put in the hours that I want to put in, and I am, full disclosure, a
Yes.
perfectionist. So
Me too. Guilty.
unless I complete my full-on, what I want to call a chick, I'm not publishing them. So they're available. They're just not published yet. But essentially, my books are highlighting children that come from multicultural backgrounds, and I was inspired from my journey. I was inspired from my own son, who he's a kid born in US, so he's American, but his mom is Macedonian, his dad is Indian. And I thought, how, oftentimes I would watch people ask me questions like, oh, where are you from? And so I imagine what my son would say where he is from. And so I wanted children like my son to be able to say, I'm from US and I am from Macedonia and I'm from India. I'm not half, I'm not 25, 75, whatever people start putting in percentages. I am
Oh, yes.
I am 100% this and 100% that, because you could be 100% of both. Or you don't choose one over the other. I think all of
I love
it
that.
could be highlighted. And so I want to empower children who are from multicultural backgrounds to feel free to say, hey, I am Greek and I am American. I am, Lebanese and I am Egyptian. So I think that's the role, is just kind of portraying children in environments in a search of their identity, and that's how they're written. They're written in a way that it guides a child through a journey of discovery, through their own country of origin to where they are today, to establish that multicultural identity.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Speaking of, multicultural, My children are also multicultural. Their dad is Portuguese. And so I always tell them, yes, you're African American and
Mm,
Portuguese. And I love that.
yeah.
I love that ownership of 100%,
Mhm.
because even just growing up, always hear like biracial, or people say, well, I'm half this and I'm half that.
Right.
And it's like, I love this, and I think that that is the way of the future. I think owning your culture, owning your identity of both parents, I think that's important in building a child's identity, self esteem. And it also will help them to feel like they're part of both cultures and not just half or half.
Right. Right. Because, I
um,
don't quite belong there. I don't quite belong here. I
yes,
don't belong nowhere.
yes,
And
yes.
I've struggled over the years. I have multiple homes, and that I think that's sorry. I am getting Macedonian love. Um,
Oh, that's
my
wonderful.
parents are here, and
Okay.
um,
Yep. Okay. Okay.
my parents are here. And so one of the ways that our culture expresses love is by feeding you. So
Yes.
if you ever travel in those part of the world and they're feeding you, they love you, and so they're feeding me.
Yes. How lovely. I love that.
But this is
This has been
pretty
such
much
a
the
wonderful.
raw, right? See, so he doesn't understand. He
Yeah.
they're so pure, innocent individuals who he doesn't understand what I'm actually doing here, and so he just wanted to bring. But yeah, I'm digressing.
Yes.
So, and I think one of the important things I wanted to mention when I'm talking about people embracing identity, I do focus on multiculturalism, but my hope truly is for
Yes.
people to accept identities of who they are, and all
Yes.
of their adjectives, um,
Yes.
everything that's about them. Whether you've just been born in Houston and you lived all your life in Houston, there's story behind it. Maybe you were from the Acres homes. Maybe you grew up in a single parent household. Maybe you were lucky to receive a scholarship. Maybe you were first generation college. I think people should just not pick and choose and just say, I'm an economist or I'm a lawyer, but there's so much more beyond who they are. And I think people should be able to mold those stories of who they are and not just share it, but also use of where they come from to tell the
Yes.
world what they're made of. And that's very important.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love that. I really do. And it's dear to me and to my heart, and I love that. And I love that you're spreading that story, and you're spreading that sense of identity for multiculturalism, not only for yourself, but I also, for my own family. So
Mhm.
thank you for sharing that with
Absolutely.
us. Oh, thank you so much. We're going to go to our last commercial break of the evening, but everybody stay tuned for more Pink Table Talk.
Welcome to Season 2 of Beyond Health and Wellness with Dr. Rich. New season, new insights. Dr. Rich brings you the keys to unlock your best self on Beyond Health and Wellness. From nutrition to mindset, we're taking wellness to the next level. This is Season 2 of Beyond Health and Wellness. Join us every Friday 8 p.m. CST.
Welcome back to Pink Table Talk. Tonight we're talking with Olivera Yankowska. I hope I got it right, probably. It's only taken 4 times. She is an immigrant, global citizen, and public servant. We've been talking about her journey from Macedonia, her love of culture, arts, language, and her encouragement for multiculturalism. Before we went on break, you talked about your books. I think we have your page. Let's pull that up. Okay. Oh, these books are so beautiful. You know, I love the artwork on them. And I'm going to get these for my girls. I want them to read these. I just love these stories. I think it's so beautiful and fun. So tell us about the inspiration for these books.
So yeah, I've always written stories. I've always been a creative individual. But when my son was born, I wanted him to learn my language, Macedonian, and I wanted him to speak Hindi, and I wanted him to fully understand that he's American. So I would take books as he was even still a baby, and I would try to translate the book, whatever the book was. I would try to translate. And then eventually I started taking books and I would make up stories on the spot with an open book of that was not the text inside. So I apologize to all the authors of Little Blue Truck and Goodnight Moon and but I would sort of read the books in Macedonian and I would just look at the picture. I would tell him stories about Macedonia that reminded me of these pictures inside. As he started growing up, he started being able to understand the stories and follow the stories. He got quite frustrated when I changed the story because he knew books read each and every time they read the same. But this mama would forget the story she did. So he would say, well, the little blue truck, he went down the road and did XYZ things, not what you just told me, mama. And he'll get frustrated on the floor. And I realized that I need to start making notes of the stories I'm making up because he told me that the books are not the same each and every time. And I started writing sticky notes inside of the stories I'm telling him. And I would try to find any random book that had any images that resemble any place from Macedonia, India, or something. And shortly I started writing these stories and in these little sticky notes. I started, when he would go to sleep, I would draw. I love to draw, and I would draw pictures to make it more applicable. And then eventually I found myself making a scrapbook kind of a place, kind of a thing. And I would put the scrapbook underneath the book and I'm kind of reading and shuffling around. And then I was like, I don't know, what am I doing? I can write this out and I can just take these drawings and I can actually write a book with these stories. So that's how it started. I started writing these stories, started drawing the images, formed a publishing company, and I was no interested in anyone editing any of my stories. I did send them around, and they told me they need to appeal to more audience, to larger audience. They were too specific. Wow. They won't sell. And I said, you know what? I'm not selling. I don't care.
Yeah,
I want these books to be raw. I want these books to be authentic. And I want them to go to the hands of children that will identify themselves. Even if it's 5 children or 1 or just my son, that's plenty for me. I didn't want 5,000. I don't care if the book will sell or not sell and the numbers. And so I wasn't interested in people editing these stories to be more generic. And that drove me nuts, honestly, because I did get a few offers. I'm not going to mention publishing houses because I don't want to put anyone on the spot. I did offer a lot of interest in it, but everyone wanted to edit something. The were too dark in the Indian version. The text was too specific. There was usage of words that were too culturally specific. And so I said, you know what? My training, I'm an economist. I can build businesses. I can do this. I can build my own publishing house. So I did.
Wow. Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Publishing house, and I published the books that way and I wanted to publish them. And
Yeah.
I started donating the books, and once in a while I get a check, I don't know where from, and I get these checks. I can't complain because I do zero advertising. I do it's all organic work. And so I've been quite blessed. I've developed another 4, of course, Macedonia. I will reveal the other 2 in a bit. But I started by just simply making a scrapbook for my child.
Aw,
Truly,
I
like
love
I
that.
made those plays on the driveway. I made a book with sticky notes.
That's wonderful. Oh my goodness. You have me in tears here. But I love the fact that you took the reins yourself and was like, you know what? If they want me to change my story, they want me to, whitewash it, and you decided to keep it as it is. And I love that. I love that you decided to take ownership and spread the story you wanted to share. And it needs to be shared with the world. There are a lot of families and children from multicultural backgrounds who will love and enjoy these stories.
Right.
So bravo to you for that. So I know you won an award recently. I think we have a photo here of you being the recipient, a 2024 honoree. How wonderful. I think it's so deserving for the person that you are. You just radiate such beauty and such light, and you're just such a joy to be around. And I'm just so thankful for all the work that you're doing and all the education. That's a picture of us from your birthday. We definitely have to get together again soon. We always have such a great time. But I thank you so much for coming on the show today. Continue to do the wonderful work that you're doing. Continue to spread the love for culture, the arts, and for multiculturalism. Any last words for our audience?
Well, I want to say likewise, continue this work. This is beautiful. It does empower, it does change lives. You may not see it immediately. You may not know if you've changed a life, but trust me, these kind of stories inspire. And so I thank you for putting this together. It's very, very valuable, and I'm honored to be part of it. And I think I'll be brief. I think one of the things that I've always have me drive in everything that I do in life is a quote which is pretty simple: day one or one day. And I think that's just me. I've always been, you know what? It is day one. Because I think too many times, for whatever you do, for whatever that is, a decision, a choice, I think just try day one and see how that goes. I'm not saying day one has not gotten me into trouble. That's I think probably I've had more failures than successes, but the successes that I've had with day one are far more rewarding than all the tears I've shed for trying out that. So I think it's just go for it. I think that's what I want everyone to take away from my story, to inspire them to actually take action.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you so much. What an amazing journey. What an amazing talent and what a beautiful soul. I thank you so much again for joining us tonight. I really appreciate you and your wonderful words of wisdom.
Thank you.
So that's all for, oh, you're welcome. You're so welcome. So that's all for tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in to Pink Table Talk. Be sure to join us next week as we talk with Carla Adams and our Safe Families for Houston launch for this year. You can watch us on Lawin Media Network, either through our YouTube, Facebook, Twitch TV, and over 18 different podcast platforms. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you again.